I mean, in where we live, we got 40 something dead. I mean, but the government here, shut everything down, 2.5 months. There's not a restaurant or bar, anything open. Here you go to a supermarket, 5 people at a time. Banks is 2 people at a time. Pharmacy, one. And like for many weeks, Friday at 3 o'clock till Monday at 6, it was just closed down. But it's the only way. But you can do that in ex-communist country. Look at people in the States. Everything is kumbaya. It's crazy.
Scary times, sir. Scary times. And are you coping okay with that?
Oh yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Emma's a little bit hard because she can't go to the gym. She has her friends. She has her business, and it's been tough. But other than that, I don't have a problem with that because I'm talking with people every day, and then because of the time difference, it's still here 12 o'clock at night. I'm talking to people back in the States that forget about the time and we're talking. But for us, yeah, a little bit difficult for Emma and for Jasper, but for me, I can adjust to anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all. We just went live over on Facebook. Welcome to another very inspirational and highly informative session here at the Light 'em Up Lounge. I'm beyond grateful to welcome the Professor Jose Blanco with us tonight. And I would like to say hello to all the people who are joining us here at the lounge. Also, all the fabulous people joining us through Facebook Live. If you have any questions and comments, please, as always, make sure to put them into the comments underneath the video. I'll be regularly checking and watching over there and make sure that I bring all your questions here to the lounge so we can forward them to Mr. Blanco. For everybody here at the lounge, please, if you have questions, as always, put something into the chat box. I will make sure that we have your question being heard, or raise your hand, and then we will have a wonderful session. So without further ado, Jose, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Reinhardt. Good to see Andre there, my good friend Figo, Ian, that I know that's on the, I see him most of the times when I review the videos that you guys do, and it's I think it's been long overdue, but we've been busy all these days doing all these shows. But to me, it's a pleasure. You know that I've always had a great relationship with the magazine, and the utmost respect for Reinhold and what you guys have done. So let's get the show on the roll.
We fully appreciate that. Thank you so much. Jose, with 50 years in the industry, obviously you've sort of seen it all. You've been through the booms and the busts. You've seen companies come and go, and you have a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge within that industry. So I would like to kick things off with a very personal question. Where do you personally, for yourself, feel like you are at this moment in time on that journey?
This journey started, a little bit of history. My father was a political exile from a dictator that was called Rafael Leonidas Trujillo in Dominican Republic. He ruled the country with an iron fist for 31 years, and in 61 they killed him. But because my family was always involved in politics, my grandmother sent my father at the age of 16 to New York on a boat for like $18 to live with a uncle. He became an American citizen, went to school, went to the army, had his business, and when Trujillo was killed, came back. But I grew up seeing my father smoking 3-4 cigars a day when he was at home. I remember he would send me to the bodega with 25 cents to buy 3 Dutch Masters that were with Cuban filler at that time. And of course, anybody who would come from DR, they would bring them cigars. So seeing my father growing up, and then when Trujillo was killed, we went to Dominican Republic. I went to Hochi's father's factory. It's one of the oldest factories in Dominican, 1936. And at the age of 14, I was there, and with the old man Guma, that ran the little factory, was maybe 30 or 35 rollers, no molds, everything was handmade, only 2 sizes. A fat kind of Toro cigar that was made with a mixed filler, and a Corona size cigar that was made with long filler. So I started to smoke at the age of 14 and a half. And my mother found out, And then my father said, well, you can't smoke till you're 16. But that didn't stop me. Because when I was 16 years old, we had a little get together in my house and my father bought me a little bundle of cigars and said, now you can officially smoke. So my mother had a smile and then he put me aside and says, I knew you were stealing my cigars. So, you know, at 16, 17, I was probably one of the few people in Santiago smoking cigars. So as time went by, it was 1-2 cigars a week. Then towards 21, it was almost 1 cigar, 2 cigars. And then it's been smoking for 54 years. Now, being with all the companies I've been to, and we'll talk about that later, I see myself this, and I've said it in a couple of the shows. I've been doing a bachelor degree for a long, long time with many companies, which I admire, respect, and still have close relationships. But now my next 5 years, I'm doing a PhD, I'm doing a master's at Fuente till the age of 75. So when I reach 75, then I'm going to do a PhD from 75 to 80. And then at 80, if I still feel good and I can talk and people still want to see this old man, I'll still continue. But that's my plans for the next 10 years.
That's wonderful. I'm just so curious. You know, a lot of people do not even spend 50 years working in their life at all, let alone in one industry. How do you still maintain that passion and the drive and the energy? You're traveling an awful lot. You're doing all these master classes and presentations and the blending seminars. What keeps you driving and keeps you motivated every single day?
Reinhard, let me tell you something. And I've said this also many times. If I were to die tonight, and I would go to heaven, I hope to go, and St. Peter would be there and said, okay, Mr. Blanco, we're going to send you down again. So what do you want to be? You want to be a poet? You want to be a painter? You want to be a singer? You want to be an artist? And I would say, St. Peter, the only thing I want you is to send me down again, and I want to be a tobacco man. You know, I tell people, if you were to cut the majority of people up and people, you know, bleed red. If you were to cut me, the only thing is you're going to get essential oils coming out of my veins, because that's what it's all about. I wake up in the morning thinking what I'm going to smoke, what if I'm blending, if I have samples of tobacco from different countries that are sent to me. And I get up every day and people ask me, how can you do it? Like the year before, I traveled 40 weeks. I remember that Ernesto always used to tell me I would come back from, let's say, from Switzerland. And on a Sunday, 8 o'clock, arrive in Miami. Next day, it'd be 9 o'clock in the morning. Ernesto says, how can you do it? Because I go to Vegas and I can't get up for 2 days. And when I go to Europe, it's just awful with the jet lag and all that. I've been traveling since a very young age, so I'm used to it. I used to, one year I took off, I did a lot of consulting in China, Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong for a company. And I'm just used to it. But more than used to it, Reinhard and everybody who's listening, it's the love, it's the passion. My great-grandfather grew tobacco. My grandfather, my father, my cousins. It's like, it's all tobacco. And it's just a passion. I've been to Cuba a couple of times, Honduras, Nicaragua, Dominican, Mexico. I mean, it's something that I love.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned, like, if you would have that opportunity to go back, St. Peter sent you back, would you actually do something differently in your life if you were to start all over again?
Well, when you're born again, you know, you don't know shit. So you would have to, who knows, maybe it wouldn't work out the same it is, or if you could revise your life, of course, you know, we all make mistakes. But at the end of the day, this is the problem with mistakes. There's people that will stumble on the same mistake again and again and again, and they don't learn. Because the only way that you learn really is by your mistakes. It's like when you're blending a cigar, it's trial and error. It's like I'm amazed when I see people, well, I went down to XYZ country and I was 3 days in the factory and I got a blend going on. And I said, wow, good luck. I hope it works out, because I used to take 5, 6, 7 months. There was a blend that I made that was very successful for a company. It took me 1.5 years. But it's all, you have to be patient when you're blending. You have to know your tobaccos. You have to fool around and tweak everything around. So, I mean, everyone has its way of doing things. I'm not here to criticize anybody, but I can tell you, look, great blends by great master blenders have taken time. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody on the third blend got it, because that could happen. But really, truly, when you're working on something, it takes time.
And I think the young generation in these days in particular probably is not always willing to invest that time and be patient, right? We live in a fast-paced world, and with the remote control of our life, everything is like accessible instantly. And we're used to getting everything that we want by the second. You open up your smartphone, you Google something, every information is out there. We just live in a different world. But where do you see your place and the place of the industry and the wonderful product that we're all enjoying together in these challenging times?
Look, first of all, we have to see how this is going to finalize with the coronavirus. I mean, I feel very worried for a lot of people because I have a lot of friends from the biggest company to the smallest company at the shows or when I'm visiting the countries and they invite me over. It doesn't matter if it's a big factory or small factory, I'll go by. I love to mooch a couple of samples. I'm a big time moocher, and I'm not afraid to say it. And because I like to try stuff. But it's all going to depend really on the economy, on the coronavirus, and how all this is going to affect us all. You know, there's a lot of people that think everything will be okay. I hope that everything is going to be okay. But for our business, one thing that I've learned throughout time during depression, 9/11, crisis of 2008, there's two things that people will never stop doing, which is smoking and drinking. But at the same time, we don't know, depending how hard and how long it's going to take to a vaccine, because all of a sudden the cigar shops may open up, but also every state or every country says, well, we don't want the lounges open up because it could be something that, social distancing, that's going to affect a lot the industry. And we don't know either how each country, the Ministry of Health is going to react, not towards only cigars, because, we're a very small percentage. To give you an example, in the States, we're $1 billion entity, but the cigarettes is close to $90 billion. So that means that the cigarette companies are 90 times bigger than us. So to be honest, I mean, you wish for the best, but I believe in God, but I also believe in the scientists. So we can only pray for the best.
Now, when I actually mentioned young people before, and with your tremendous amount of experience and knowledge, how important do you see translating that to the younger generation and making sure that we have a new generation, some new blood coming into this industry and really keeping the whole thing alive?
Let me tell you, when you say young people, I'm not going to mention names because there's 2 or 3 guys out there that have come in the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years that have done a tremendous job. And they're friends of mine, and I visit them. And in the beginning, when they asked me for any type of advice, I gave it to them. And some of them doing a fantastic job. They're taking the time, they're making great blends, and there are brands that are out there that are doing very, very well, and those guys will continue. Now, in the young generation, you have like Liana Fuentes doing a tremendous job with her father, Tony Nunez with Tony Gomez with Lito. Another kid that's a tremendous kid is Nick Perdomo's kid. And maybe I'm missing a couple of guys. Lisette, Ernesto's daughter, I mean, she is fantastic. Drew Newman does very well also for the Newman, for Eric's son. And I know I'm missing a couple of people, and it's not that I'm mentioning, I just don't remember. But we have a lot of good kids that are going, I say kids because I'm old, 30, 40-year-old people that are really doing good. But at the end of the day, also, when you follow the footsteps of a very successful person, you just can't do the same thing that your father or your grandfather did. You got to follow the quality, the tradition, the consistency, but you also have to develop new ideas, new concepts to how to approach that new generation, that middle-aged generation, and all those old timers that are still 60, 70, 80 years old, that are still smoking the product that your grandfathers made before.
That's actually a wonderful point. What would you say is your particular spin on things that you brought to this industry, or which particular angle would you like to show on that industry?
Let me tell you something. I blended some great cigars. I've been with some great companies. But if you ask me, what is your greatest satisfaction that you have outside a couple of cigars that I made that were extraordinary, I would probably say all the education that I've done in the last 20 years. Been in more than 25, 30 countries, more than 1,200 or 1,300 blending seminars. I mean, I've met people worldwide that after I met them, they inbox me, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or my email, and to ask me questions. There's not a day that I wake up that I go to Facebook, 5 or 6 messages, Instagram now more than ever, 8 or 10 messages, Twitter 2 or 3. People ask me, what do you think about this? Is this true about that? What do you think about this cigar? So cigars, I don't like to give a lot of opinions on it. I just tell sometimes if I don't like a cigar, I say it's a good cigar, but it's not my cup of tea. I don't badmouth a cigar. I don't badmouth a country. I don't badmouth a brand, because I've been in shops where people have really badmouthed a brand, and I pull the people aside. I say, can I tell you something? Probably in the back of the lounge. Sometimes I take it on the parking lot small. Let me tell you something. You might not like that brand, but I can tell you this. That guy grew that tobacco, cured that tobacco, fermented that tobacco, aged that tobacco, left it there for 2.5 years, made those cigars, and maybe you don't like it, but it's doing okay, and it's a new company. And most of the time, I would say 95, 96, because you always find an asshole. People say, Mr. Blanco, it's true. And I say, if you don't have anything good to say about a cigar, don't say anything, because it might not be your cup of tea, but definitely, if you see in the store, at least it's selling a bit. So I have a lot of respect for everybody in the industry, and I believe everybody's trying to do a great job and satisfy hundreds of thousands of people all over the world.
I couldn't agree more, and it's truly that most respectful approach towards all the people that are pouring their hearts and souls into this industry. But it's also the other aspect that you mentioned, which is the educational part. And that is really something I know you always speak of fondly, where you would like to bring even more education to the industry. And you're doing that through your blending seminars and all your other appearances and shows.
But let me tell you something, Reinhard, and to our listeners. I've been a big critic of our industry, because if you look at the wine industry, you look at our industry, we have in our industry 2 or 3 CDs and 2 or 3 books. But if you look at the wine industry, it's thousands of CDs and thousands of books written about wine. So what I always tell in our meetings, when it was Pro Cigar and wherever I've been, the more educated the consumer is, it's easier for the retailer. The more educated the retailer is, it's more easy to connect with the distributor. The more educated that the distributor is, it's easy to connect with the company that's making the cigars. Because at the end of the day, of course, we all want to make money, because if we don't make money, it's the bottom line. But it has to be a balance of love, integrity, tradition, and a whole bunch of things that you have to be successful. And unfortunately, sometimes the bottom line is just we want to sell, but we don't look into the things that we really need to do.
It's very, very interesting that you bring up that analogy. Like my own personal story in the sensory field started with the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, the WSET out of London. And it was tremendous to realize that there's so much training and emphasis on blind tasting and building a sensory portfolio in your head and really linking all the theoretical knowledge there is about soil and climate and history and geography and the people, but with the actual product and you're tasting that. Would you feel like there's certainly room of improvement in the cigar industry to offer more of such seminars or to offer more such educational programs?
Listen, there's a lot of similarities into the wine industry and the cigar industry without any doubt at all. But what I think is that we really need as an industry to all put more together. I'm sorry, guys. It's
not at all.
Tomorrow night.
Family always comes first.
It's not easy. He wants to go. No, what I'm saying is yes, but again, we need. Look, if you look at the wine industry, our industry, and the food industry, there's a lot of things that people ask me about blending. So I'll give you an example. You're taking ligero, visos, and secos from a whole bunch of different countries and this and that. But a chef is doing the same thing. He's taking salt, pepper, tomato paste, onions, garlics, and things like that. So a chef is doing more or less the same things we're doing. But if you look at the similarities also in grape and tobacco, like every year, the tobacco is going to be totally different. You have a year where it rained a lot. The leaves are going to be very big. They're going to be light colors. They're not going to have a lot of oils on them. And the fermentation process is going to be at a lower temperature. But if you have a year where it hardly rained, you're going to have thick leaves, thick veins, dark leaves, a lot of oils, and the fermentation process is going to be much longer and higher temperatures. Well, the same thing happens with the grapes. Every year, the crop of grapes is going to be totally different, depending also on the amount of rain you have, or if you didn't have a lot of rain. So there's a lot of similarities in it. And the other thing about this is people always talk about seeds. I tell them, yes, a seed is important, but get this in your head. More important than the seed is the soil, the pH, the magnesium, the nitrate that's into it. And I'll give you an example. You take Piloto Cubano and you grow it in La Canela, Urabo, Jacagua, Mao, or Potrero in Dominican Republic. Even though there's going to be a lot of similarities to it, it's going to be different. Take Habano, grown in Jalapa, in Estelí, in Condega, or in Ometepe, it's going to be totally different. So at the end of the day, the soil plays a very, very important part of the growing. And unfortunately, people do not understand that.
How do you factor that into your personal blending approaches? And when you started to work on some of these iconic cigars that you developed, where did you bring in that factor of soil and the unique pH levels and how it would actually affect the tobacco and the leaf in the end?
I didn't hear that last part.
I was just asking how you personally factor that aspect in when you mentioned the soil and the pH, like the terroir of particular tobaccos. How do you approach that when you start blending and working on new cigars?
Sorry, it's been, look, you were talking about the ligeros, the visos, and the secos?
I was more about the soil and how you bring that factor in when you work on new blends.
Well, let me put it to you this way, because every crop is not the same. A lot of people have a misconception, and they only talk about the part of the fermentation. Mm-hmm. But if you do not pick the leaves on time, if you pick them before their time, or you let them mature, then you have a problem. But let's say you pick them correctly and they go into the curing barn. But if the curing is not done correct, you screw it up too. You have a lot of humidity, you got to bring in heat. You have a lack of humidity, you got to bring in water. But let's say that part went totally correct, but then you go to the fermentation part. If you over ferment, the essential oils are gone and it's like smoking paper. But if you under ferment and you're still going to have those nasty notes and what we call notas extrañas, strange notes into it. And that's why sometimes when you're smoking a cigar, you can find some bitterness or what we call, what would be the word in English? It's like manchoso, that you feel that tobacco here, not the sweetness tip you get at the tip of your lung, when it goes down at this part, when you know that you're picking up something. And that is because maybe a leaf or two, when that fermentation process was being done, did not get it. Because remember, when you're fermenting every 13, 14 days, you're going to take apart the troja and we're going to do the beater and you're going to flip everything around. So in that process, that could really happen. Because it's as bad to over ferment as to under ferment. But still, if you do that correctly, then you're going to go into the aging. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years. We have stuff that's 8, 10, 15 years for special editions that Carlito does. But at the end of the day, I don't care who says it. I respect what anybody could say. Aged tobacco works, but at the same time, good aged tobacco. And I'll tell you why. Because I see on Facebook a lot of times, and I'm not going to mention brands, oh, I went to so-and-so event, I bought the cigar, and I left it 3 years. And then they open it up and says, wow, this is really bad. I'll tell you this. A bad cigar is going to be bad today, in a month, in a year, 10 years, 20 years. Now, you could buy a box of cigars that has some tobacco, not tobacco needed, but the cigar needed a little bit of time. They rushed it, and you put it away a month, 2 months, 3 months, because it has potential. But a bad cigar is not going to get better. If it's bad today, it's going to be bad forever.
That's actually a very interesting point, because we had a lot of questions coming in through Facebook, and one of them was if you've ever done any sort of aging experiments with particular cigars. There was a special question about Nicaraguan cigars, but in general, I mean, you just mentioned that point very clearly. There might be potential with some cigars, but you cannot sort of make a bad cigar a better cigar just by putting it away.
No, that will never happen. No, I have cigars, look, to be honest, that are 25, 30 years old. And to be honest, it's more or less to show off, because you can smoke. I've smoked a lot of pre-embargo stuff. And I mean, look, are they worth $1,000, $1,500? Well, if you have the money, it's okay, because if it's a 5-inch cigar, you probably only get 2 inches out of it, because the first couple of inches, it's not going to be a lot to it. And I smoked, old Dominicans and Nicaraguans and Honduras cigars also. What people don't understand is this. I'll try to explain. Let's say you have a cigar X, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10, flavor has to always be 10. And then gradually, it could be in strength of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7. I never liked 10-10, because to me, the 10th on strength overlaps flavor. But let's say when the blender made the cigar, it was 10 in flavor and 8 in strength. You put that cigar away for 3 years, and the strength level is going to come down and the flavor level is going to come out. Now, if it's good tobacco, it's going to mellow out. It's going to smoke better, not necessarily better, but it could be better. But if you put that same cigar away for 10 years, that flavor that used to be 10 is probably going to be around 6. And that strength that was going to be maybe 8, it's going to be maybe a 5 and a 5.5. So do cigars lose with time? They do. But what a lot of people forget is that They buy expensive cigars, they put them away, but they make the biggest mistake. They don't take care of them in their humidors.
So that is actually a follow-up question that we had through Facebook, because Brian was asking what could ruin a perfect cigar, and it might be due to the aging or how you store it in your humidor, right?
No, to be honest, there's only one thing that can ruin a perfect cigar, and it's smoking it next to an asshole. That was probably Brian Russell who asked that.
Oh, absolutely. He certainly was.
Oh, how truer you can be.
Also, Stefan had a question. Stefan, it's great to see you on the call, and I think Jose just answered parts of your question, but would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, well, Jose, good to see you, man.
Hey, how are you, my
Good
brother?
to see you. Very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, you partially already answered the question. What I was asking is, I know that that Fuentes strongly believes in aged tobacco. They do a lot with aged tobacco. They've always been known for their aged tobacco. But do you personally believe in aging cigars? I'm not talking about using aged tobacco. I'm talking about cigars that are put away for a long time. Do you believe in that? Do you think that's an asset to a cigar?
Let me tell you something. To be honest, it all depends on the cigar, because something I tell people is, why would you want to take a mild cigar and put it away for 10 years? It's already mild. Now, if you have a good, I would say medium to full, the cigars, in my opinion, that age better are medium to full body, full flavor. But, you know, after a certain time, cigars start to lose. Like I said, I have a big collection of cigars, and some stuff there that I'll probably never smoke or anything, or one day maybe give them out to charity or something like that for somebody to donate for a cause. But I don't think look, there's all sorts of people. I know people that just buy stuff and leave it years and years and years and years and years and don't even smoke them. They'll smoke them after 10 or 12 years. But look, to be honest, this is in my opinion, it's a very personal decision. I would like to smoke cigars right off the, as soon as they come from the factory. Good companies, of course. And of course, if you leave them for a couple of more years and they're good cigars, they're going to get better. But I don't think you really have to leave cigars that much. And I know that some people say, oh, this old man, this, that. To me, my opinion, it's personal preference.
Okay. Thank you, my friend.
Always good to see you, brother.
And probably a good idea to follow up with is that when you do your seminars, you always put a lot of emphasis on 6 essential aspects that you need to take into consideration: taste, aroma, and strength, the balance, the complexity, and the finish.
Well, we start off with flavor, then strength, then aroma, then complexity, then balance, and finish. And I'll tell you something, and this is something that happens all over the world. A huge percentage of consumers tend to confuse flavor with strength. You could have a mild cigar that's full flavor, and you could have a cigar that's only strength. So when you're blending a cigar, we're working on it. We've picked up already, our pure grays, grado puro, filler binder and wrapper, all the same thing. And you're making notes. Well, this is from La Canela, this is from Estelí, this is from Jalapa, and you're making your notes, what you're looking for. You're looking for spice, or what kind of spice, or what kind of earthiness if you're looking, because people tend also to confuse when you talk about sweetness, but what sweetness are you talking about? Is it the sweetness of a milk chocolate, or you're looking at a bittersweet of a Godiva? How many times have you smoked a cigar and you're picking up during the smokes 1, 2, or 3 maybe hints of a dark espresso? But going back to that, so you have flavor, you have strength, and you have aroma. Practically those 3 things are not hard to get. Now, when it really starts hard is when you got to get to complexity. Why? Because it doesn't matter how good a cigar is, if from start to finish, it's the same flavor, the same strength, the same notes, it becomes a good, boring cigar. Cigar has to change on you and change on you. And to be honest, I see a lot of people, well, my cigar after 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, it really comes up. A cigar, as soon as you light it up, has to start to perform. Because the analogy I do on this is, and it was funny, I did it in a cigar shop one day. And I said, okay, that cigar that you just bought, now I'm not gonna mention the brand, you pay $10, no, you pay $12 for it. So let's say that every inch was $2. And he says, yes. So you're going to tell me that the first 3 inches, $6 went to waste, and then the 2 inches, because you don't smoke that last inch, is gonna come up to, he says, you got a point. And I said, yes, because a cigar from the beginning has to start to really bring out the flavors, the notes and things like, I'm not saying the first couple of puffs, but half an inch, quarter of an inch, the cigar has to be telling you something. Now then we go to balance. That really, really, really is something you have to look into. Because what really, Jasper, no, balance is very, very important, because that is one of the hardest things to get. To me, I see balance as a symphony where every note has to be in place, where you have to have totally stimulations. How many times have you smoked a cigar and the first 2 inches perfect and all of a sudden goes flat? What could have happened? The roller, when he was making the cigar, let's say he was working with 4 fillers, got distracted, left one out or repeated one. So the recipe is also screwed up. Or the guy who made the blend did not do his homework. And last finish, you see people saying the cigar is medium to full, bada bing, bada bang. This, and people think for you to determine the finish, you have to smoke the whole cigar. Half an inch into a cigar, you're gonna know it has a long finish, a short finish, no finish, or a bad aftertaste. When do you know a cigar has a perfect finish? When your lips are tingling and you do not want to let go that cigar. And you keep savoring. The cigar is already in the ashtray and you keep saving and saving. But at the same time, how many times do you want to go drink something, brush your teeth or something because it left you something very uncomfortable in the mouth?
So you actually worked on a couple of different blends. You even worked for different companies. How difficult was it for you to sort of always readjust to new house styles of individual companies, to new lines that you were creating? Was it a challenge to always readjust, or did it come naturally and easy to you?
Yes, of course, a challenge. And let me tell you something. Even though every country, every factory blends, make cigars in different ways, you learn. Because coming from La Aurora and then going to Joya de Nicaragua, senior vice president, they had never really worked with a lot of different types of tobacco. We started bringing Dominican tobaccos, other tobacco, and I had a fantastic time. I have the utmost respect for Alejandro, for Juan, for Mario Perez. They're great people. They're like family to me. But I learned a lot in Nicaragua. And I spent a lot of time with my good friend Jonathan Pepin. I would see him every other week. I would visit the majority of all the factories. But you learn a lot. And I spent a lot of time with the Olivas. I spent a lot of time with the Perez, Nestor Plasencia, Nestor Andres. I was always welcome, and you learn a lot. But do you have to learn to adjust the ways? Absolutely, because if you come in thinking, oh, you have a name and you're going to change everything around, it doesn't. You have to come in, you have to propose ideas. But when you propose them, you know, what is it? The proof is in the pudding, you say? You got to come up with things and say, well, we're doing this for this way, we're doing this for this way. Let's try to implement this. And of course, a lot of things I implemented there, and we still have a great relationship, and I wish them all the best, the same thing as the country. But if you don't adjust and you're not humble and you don't listen what they have to say, but at the same time, they listen to what you have to say, it's a different ballgame. But I adjusted very well, and same thing coming back.
We also had a question through Facebook. Do you see a difference in sort of an old school approach for blending that could have been used in the 70s and 80s in comparison to today's methods? Or would you say it's a consistent process that has been the same ever since?
Look, it all depends. The old timers, Ernesto, Carlito, Don Carlos, Guillermo's father, and some other people, I mean, they're going to do old style all the time. You know, they're curing the fermentation. They believe in very old age tobaccos, the way they make the cigars, the quality control. But that doesn't mean that some of the newcomers haven't done great jobs. Now, what people have to understand, where's one of the big differences? If you go back in time, remember before we only had Indonesia, Cameroon, Connecticut, Maduro, and I'm missing a rapper. Hold on, let me see. Indonesia and Cameroon, Connecticut.
Criollo?
No, Criollo would be BAC, but it was basically that. But today we have Criollo 98, Corojo 99, Piloto Cubano, we have Olor, we have Habano, Vuelta Arriba, we have Arapiraca, we have Bayano, which is their Corojo version of, we have Negro San Andres from Mexico, also Sumatra from Mexico. I mean, we have so many different types of tobacco. So today, the blenders and the companies have more tobaccos to work with than from the old days. So to me, in my opinion, to be honest, in the last 10, 12 years, cigars are more rich, more complex, more balanced. Why? Because we have different origins and we're growing different types of tobaccos from different countries. But at the same time, again, it also comes down to the blender and the aging of the tobacco.
We had a question from the Sisters in Smoke. Pleasure to have you. Please fire away.
I'm so sorry. That was an accident. I'm listening.
No worries.
But hi.
Good to see you on the show, though.
Hi.
Tuning in. Another question from Woody is, Jose, what is the current status of the Arturo Fuente factory?
Right now?
Yes, I
In
guess.
Santiago? No, we're not.
In Nicaragua. He was asking in Nicaragua.
Oh, in Nicaragua. Well, yeah, the farms and all those things working. Everything is, it's there. We're just waiting to see. It's been like every time when we want to do something, like something comes up. Now it's the coronavirus. But I can guarantee you one thing: we will have a factory in Nicaragua. That I can promise you.
Johan, did you still have a question? I saw you had a question before, but...
Yeah, okay, now it's okay. Perfect. Hello, Jose.
Johan, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hope you're fine.
Yes, all good.
Thank you. Jose, one question. If you, I mean, I know your history, parts of your history, I know that you work for different companies. You have now access, or you had, and you always have big access to a lot of different kind of tobaccos. Was there ever the risk to make a similar blend, or to make it, when you make a cigar after your taste, and you made it for La Aurora, you made it for Joya, you made it for Ernesto, is there the risk to make a similar cigar all the time because it's your favorite cigar or your favorite taste for different companies?
Okay, one of the things that I believe that people should not do is try to make what other people have successfully done. So I have never gone on to try to say, I want to make a cigar like so-and-so and this. When I'm creating a cigar, it has to be something totally different from any company that I've worked with, or any brand that's out there, because you have to be genuine. And when you're going to promote a brand or a cigar, you have to come up with something that's unique. It has to be your own style and something that's... I'm sorry, guys. It's not easy.
Not at all. That's the challenges of home office. Family always comes first. We appreciate it.
Just one more thing. So you make always for each and every company you worked, the new, my perfect new cigar?
You try to make a totally different cigar, because
Okay.
when you're working with tobacco, when you come to work with a company, you don't want to do anything you did with a previous company. First of all, it's unethical, and you have to really come up with something that's unique, and you know you're going to be able to sell it.
Okay.
Jose, I have
Thank you,
a
Jose.
Hey, how are you?
Question from Woody. It's good to have you on the call.
Hello, Jose, Reinhard. How are you guys? Jose, great to see you, and thank you, Reinhard, for doing these sessions. I have a question for Jose, since he has massive experience in the industry with different factories. Technology is improving. How much technology is needed in the production of cigars? We see the Lieberman bunching machines, we see the deveining machines, we see the Drawmaster machines and tractors for plowing the soil. How much technology do we really need as long as to keep this product as a fully handmade product? We've been seeing these a lot recently in factories outside of Cuba.
The industry, I can guarantee you, will change very little, because I mean, you gotta plant the tobacco, you gotta cure the tobacco, you gotta ferment the tobacco. For years, many years, in the 40s and the 50s, they would say the machines would replace premium cigars, and we all know that companies have tried it. It's never going to happen, because it's a handmade product. Now, when you talk about technology and growing, that is totally different, because every day the great growers, the Olivas, the Plasencia, Fuente, all those great companies always looking for better technology in the field, because especially for wrapper, because it's the most expensive part of a cigar. But also you want that yield every year to become better and better. And that's why you have different crosses of different seeds and things like that. Did you hear me?
The last part of the answer was cut off, but other than that, we heard you.
I'm sorry, man. He wants to go out. The last part about where was I cut off?
So Jose, my question is about producing the cigars in the factory, like using the Lieberman bunching machines. Why do you guys use them, or why are they?
But it's not a machine, it's a tool. Because it would be a machine if it would work automatically. But the Lieberman machine, what you do is you push it with your hand. So it's not a machine, it's a tool. And that is a misconception that people have about that.
But why is it used then, if you can do it by your hands without using this tool?
I mean, it's a preference. There's a lot of companies in Dominican that don't use it. There's a lot of companies that do. In Nicaragua, there's a lot of companies that use the Lieberman. There are other companies. It's all a preference of how it's done. Because at the end of the day, you can do the cigars entubado, you could do estrujado, or you could just do the book. At the end of the day, what you want is the cigar to have a good draw. You don't want it to be tight. You don't want it to be loose. You want it to be to a point where you clip the cigar, you light it up, and it's not going to give you a headache sucking on it. Or even worse, that it's too loose, and then when you're smoking it, it's going to be too hot. But that's a misconception that people have. Lieberman is not a machine. It's a tool.
Many thanks for the question, Woody, and thanks for tuning in. We had a question, and I was actually wondering about that as well, Jose. You always had a particular fondness for Cameroon wrapper. And with Johan's question before, he mentioned that you are sort of changing things up with all the individual companies that you were working for. But do you find yourself always coming back to that love with the Cameroon wrapper?
Let me tell you something. It's funny that you bring that up, because the other day somebody says, wow, all of a sudden now you're talking about Cameroon, because you're with Fuente Merafer. And I said, go to YouTube and see any of my videos, or anybody who's been in my seminar. And when I've been asked for the last 30 years, what is the best wrapper in the world? I said, Cameroon, grown by the Merafel family in Africa. Because a lot of people say, well, you know, this is Cameroon grown in Ecuador or Dominican or in Honduras or Nicaragua. No, no, no. That is a Sumatra seed that you're growing there. But Cameroon can only be categorized as a Cameroon wrapper if it's grown in Cameroon. And to be honest, to me, it's the best wrapper because that sweetness and that spice from Cameroon is just unique.
And do you still use it like more often for new blends that you're coming up with as well?
Well, with the blending part, you know, I'm not going to be involved with that. To be honest, I could try. The factory, of course, Carlito is always working with his team there on a lot of things, and you know, we don't reveal a lot, but you know, they just come out with that stuff. But you know, it takes years and years to develop everything. So it's really, I've always been in love with Cameroon, and I'll be in Cameroon I love Cameroon as long as I live.
Perfect. Good question to follow up with that is from Elche regarding the master blender development and process.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, you? My question was a bit more on the blending and the master blending. So how complex is to become a blender? I know you have an extensive experience in the cigar world, but we as aficionados were always fascinated by the way you create your own cigars, the way you tend to mix different leaves from different terroirs to blend up a beautiful smoke. So how complex it is to blend, and blending, is it something that anybody can do, or you have to really dedicate your life and your time to become a blender or master blender?
Look, to be honest, I've been asked that question many times, and I don't want to feel like that. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes dedication, but also the materials that you're working with has a lot to do with the type of the tobacco, the aging of the tobacco, the rollers that you have to, because you could be the greatest master blender in the world, but if that team that you have on the floor is not making those cigars correct, if they're tight, they're loose, or just not made the way the master blender decided, it's going to be really bad. Does it take time? It does really take a lot of time, and it takes patience and dedication, and you have to have a good palate and really know your tobaccos and your regions and all that. It's not that easy as people think. Do great chefs make it overnight or in a week or two? It takes time to build up that name, right. You know, the Emerald Lagardes and things like that.
Next question from the Don Carlos Lounge.
Jose.
What's up, Figo?
So, touch on the Don Carlos Personal Reserve. You know how I am about my my Cameroon. It's not all I smoke, but touch about just the blend and how the Cameroon complements that cigar itself. So
the Cameroon wrapper, because to me, Cameroon is such a great wrapper that you can practically, with good tobaccos, whether it's from Honduras, from Nicaragua, from anywhere in the world, they just work perfectly well. That sweetness, that spice, that aroma that comes out of that Cameroon wrapper, I mean, it's just amazing, and it's very unique.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those cigars. I mean, Cameroon in general, for me, my personal opinion is, you know, if the blend is right, like, you know, what I normally smoke, I mean, it's one of those things, just like you just touched on a few minutes ago, that it's one of those things that, you know, once you pick it up, you don't want to put it down.
I didn't hear the last part, Figo, sorry.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, you know, with Cameroon, you know, and with the particular blends, you know, it seems to be like once you pick it up, you just don't want to put it down, you know, and that's the way it should be.
No, it's like you say. I know you're a big fan of Cameroon, and to me, I think, to be honest, the best Cameroon cigar ever made in the world is the Don Carlos Reserve. That cigar has everything you want in a cigar and more.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you.
Many thanks for your question. Charlie, how's things in Boston? Good to see you.
We had a little bit of snow earlier this week, and it'll get warmer, but nothing like down south here. Reinhard, good to see you. Thank you so much for putting these on. Good to see you, Jose, again.
Hey, brother, what's up?
I was been down to all the factories and farms in Nicaragua and Honduras and Cuba and Dominican Republic, and I've never asked this question as part of the blending operation. How much is, when you're looking at a particular thought process to go into a blend, how much, because you mentioned Cameroon is a very expensive wrapper, how much effort do you go into trying to figure out exactly how many leaves of each particular group of wrapper, filler, and binder costed out so that you can hit a price point that you want to hit? So when you're thinking of a blend, the costing process that goes into it, is it a reverse process? You're thinking of the taste blend first, or you're thinking about the cost process as well?
Look, the first thing when you're coming up with a blend, you have to look at your inventory. And then you're talking with your sales team and the marketing team, you're going to come out with whatever brand or line extension. So you look at that and you say, well, I got so much wrapper, I got so much filler, I got so much binder. If we were to say our first launch would be 100,000, 150,000, what are we projecting we're going to sell? More or less. So you got to look at the inventory because you can't get into a project without the inventory. Now, the most expensive wrapper in the world is Cameroon, but it doesn't matter if it's Cameroon, Connecticut broadleaf, Negro San Andres, Sumatra. The wrapper is going to be the most expensive component of that cigar. But if you're just going to, you got to look at your costs for how much you think you're going to retail it, but also you got to focus on what target you want to hit. Something that I've learned throughout the years, if you try to make a cigar that everybody's going to like, you wind up with a cigar that nobody likes. You got to make a cigar or love. You got to try to make a cigar for a certain percentage of the market that will day by day, or if they go twice to the cigar shop, they'll smoke that cigar with other cigars. But if you try to please somebody, it will never happen. And that is something that people don't understand. I've had 50 people in a blending seminar, everybody smoking the same 5 wrappers on that cigar. You know how many opinions I get? 50. Why? Because taste is subjective.
You also always mention that during your blending seminars as well, right? That when you get all these different descriptive words in terms of aromas and maybe less with taste because there's just these 5 taste sensations, but with the aromas, when you do tastings yourself, do you also take more of a lyrical approach sometimes where you put down certain descriptives or words for aromas that come to you because you have a particular smell memory to that, or it might be something that always stuck with you?
Let me put it to you this way. When we're down to the final, let's say you've been working 6-7 months, a year on it, and you're down to that final 2 blends where you have to make a decision. And this is the way I do it. That'll be the first smoke of the day, 6:30, 7. And I have to be totally calm because you're making a decision that will impact your business and the business of the company. So you smoked it, you do it the second day, you do it the third day till you're absolutely sure. But when you're making those final thoughts and decisions, of course, memories come back of something you may have smoked, something you might have made, something that brings remembrance or remembering through your brain of something. And all of a sudden, sometimes you go like, something's missing here. Let's go back to the drawing table. Or the more you smoke it, you are more convinced that this is it. But those last days of making that final critical decision is so important. And some people a lot of consumers may think we take that for granted. And I got to tell you something, it's very, very important.
Do you sometimes have like a blend in your head already without even having tried it before? Because Sterling over on Facebook was asking if you ever had any blends that sort of kept you up at night and you really wanted to try out and play with.
Oh yeah. Sometimes like I'm in bed and all of a sudden I remember a binder or a filler or some tobaccos that we have. And because at a certain age, you got to write everything down. I always have a pen and a piece of paper next to my night desk. And then I just scribble a couple of notes and things like that for in the morning, see that and just take it from there and, put it on my laptop and just as a remembrance to go to the factory and try to do this. And to be honest, sometimes you smoke a cigar and all of a sudden you say, wow, maybe if we would have changed this or changed that. But for that, you have to have really gone through smoking a lot of cigars and seeing a lot of tobaccos and things like that.
Aldo, my dear brother, down from Venice. Actually, I have to make a little shout out. Aldo, I just cut my beautiful Opus X love affair with your beautiful scissor for the first time tonight. Wonderful product. You had a question. It's always great to see you on the show.
Yes. First of all, I have to thank Jose because for me, it's an enormous honor to speak with the legend because I think I learned half of what I know from your video on YouTube. Really, I love your approach. I love your passion. So thank you for all what you did in the past in your life. Well, so thank you from my side. My first question is a quite easy question. Do you plan to go ahead, so do again other blending seminars now that you work for Fuente? This is quite an easy question. The second question is a question that I usually ask when I have the opportunity to find a blender. When you think about a new blend, you start from the beginning, from the inner part of the cigar, so from the filler, and then you develop the wrapper, and you think what is the best wrapper to fulfill the aroma of the filler, or you proceed from the wrapper, so you decide which filler will be better to make exploding the taste and the aromas of that wrapper.
Let me put it to you this way. Every master blender has different ways of doing it. But to me, I have the idea, first of all, of the wrapper I'm going to use. And then what I do is that I go and see our inventory of tobacco. And then depending the year, because every year is going to be different, then what we make is puritos. I always like to do it on a 4x42 or 4x44, which is I use as a whole cigar, the filler, the binder, and the wrapper is going to be all from one bale of tobacco. Then I'll make them, leave them there 15, 20 days, then start to smoke them and scribble down notes. So if I'm looking for from some sweetness, I'll probably go to La Canela with some Piloto Cubano, or maybe if I'm looking some spiciness and earthiness, I might pick up something from Jalapa. If I want a different kind of sweetness that I want from, let's say, Piloto Cubano from La Canela, I might go to some Habano from Esteli. So when I put all those things together, then I put the wrapper, I make 5 or 6 different blends with different percentages of ligeros, visos, and seco. And of course, I try everything with maybe 2 binders. So what happens, we wait 21 days and make the cigars, and all of a sudden we said, what the hell happened here? These were great tobaccos, but this is not it. Then you go back to the drawing board and then you start to look. Then maybe you have to start changing with binders. There's one thing I got to be honest, and I said it on the program the other day. Working with Ernesto that I've had more than 25 years, we talked 2 or 3 years, I learned something very important with him, that's not that I didn't pay that much attention, but what Ernesto made it very clear to me, the binder. The binder, a lot of people do not, people think a lot about the fillers, think a lot about the wrappers, but a lot of people do not talk so much about the binder. And with Ernesto, because working with him 3 years and doing so many blends, and he is like a mad scientist when we're at the factory. You got to smoke this, you got to smoke this. Okay, these are these 10 blends that I've made. Here's 3 cigars of each. On the road, smoke them, and then write me through WhatsApp different notes and things like that. So it really is trial and error. And you really have to look into all those small details, sometimes a half a leaf. There was a blend that Ernesto made, and I wasn't with him one time, and he always, even I was working with other companies, I would go visit him, give me stuff, and we were working, and the cigar was good. And he says, I think it's still missing something. I remember, why don't you just try and change a half a leaf for this, for that? And then when he gave it to me again, it's amazing. But what people don't understand, that half a leaf sometimes, and that binder can make a huge difference.
Another question from Carl. Please bring it up.
Jose, my friend, how are you?
My brother, long time no see, but you know that the love is always there.
I think it was Providence the last time I saw you, my friend.
That's true.
You spoke about aging earlier, and I just wanted to get in the question about essential oils, which is the critical part of aging a cigar. And the cello is like a sponge, so it's going to suck the oils out of a cigar. And I've had so many people really enjoy that brown cello when they take it off. And I'm saying, oh my God, that's all the oil been sucked out of that cigar. And then, of course, gravity comes into play because the oil is heavy and it moves through the cigar. Would just like your comments about that.
Listen, I've been asked that many times. Look, how important is cello? It's very important, first of all, because it conserves better the cigars, especially in the shop, you know, and now more than ever. I think the next couple of years, we might see, I think, the European Union, I think by the year 222, I think everything's going to have to be in cello, or 223. I'm not sure about that. But then going to the aging part, like of all the thousands of cigars that I have, I would say 80% of them are without cello. That said, I don't want anybody saying, well, the old man said, you know, not cello. It all depends on preference. And it's very true. Sometimes I've seen people post on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter, cigars with the cigar here and the cello there, and it looks like brown because it's been so old that. Is it cute and all that? But I firmly believe that a lot of the essential oils are gone. I'm talking about essential oils. It's good you brought that up. See, a lot of people think that the flavor is in the leaf, and it's not true. It's the essential oils that the filler, the binder, and the wrapper have. That's what really gives the flavor to a cigar. And that's why when I'm looking at wrappers and I'm looking at a cigar, and even in the shop looking at stuff, I want to see that shiny, really oily wrapper on it, because you know that's going to have some oomph to it. But that said, I've seen a lot of cigars with all that oils on it, and what happened was that the fermentation process and the aging process was still cut a little bit, and that's why you're going to see some cigars that are going to tunnel on you, canoe on you, and smoke. So it has to be a combination of both things. You want oils on it, but you got to know that it's very good old aged tobaccos.
Jose, you mentioned Facebook and Instagram a couple of times, and I fully appreciate that you're so active through these social media channels. But how do you personally feel these new ways of communicating and being connected with people from all over the world have truly changed the industry?
Oh, no, I got to tell you something. And it's good you brought this up. I remember years ago when I started doing seminars, the youngest guy that would be at the show, we would call him a kid, where an event was 35 years old. All the rest were 50, 60, 70 years old. Now we're going to events in the last 5, 6 years, and we got to card the kids because this new generation, they want to know it all. They want to go to events. They want to take photos. They want their box signed. They have their man caves. But I got to be honest, this all came through social media. First through Facebook, Instagram is amazing. Twitter depends. Even though I have the three accounts and I got about 45,000 followers, I don't know why the hell anybody would follow me. But it is, to me, social. I mean, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, to me, have done an immensely great contribution to our industry. I think that all these young smokers and these people, well, you know, this is kind of cool. So-and-so is a buddy of mine. He's smoking a cigar. Why don't I go to a cigar shop and let me meet with my buddy to see what this is all about? And to be honest, if it wasn't for the young generation, I mean, would we be making so many cigars? We're not making more cigars because of FDA, smoking bans, taxation, and all the BS that goes around from these health nuts that are trying to cripple our industry. Pollution does more harm and all crap food and junk and sugar than our industry all combined together. It's like I've said for years, especially in the States, if you can die for your country at 18, you should be allowed to smoke and drink at 18. Can I get an amen on that?
Amen. That's for sure. How do you in general feel about that sometimes not very easy relationship between the manufacturers and those people who put their heart and soul into the product and the media, but also, of course, through social media, everybody sort of has a voice?
No, I'm glad that people reach out and people, you know, when the state goes on, you know, a new federal hike or state hike on taxes, you know, we love to see all the guys on Twitter, on all the social media just going out of that, you know, leave our cigars alone. You know, it's totally ridiculous. I don't want to get political on this stuff, but I mean, we're all adults. I mean, we don't cater or try to get 10-year-old or 12 or 13-year-old kids to smoke cigars. Plus, they don't have the money to buy that. They can't even buy a bundle. They don't have the money for that. They're into their vape, they're into cigarettes, they're into pot and that crap. But our industry is totally different. I'm talking about our industry. You know why this is the most unique industry in the world? Because this is the only industry in the world where you're not judged by the color of your skin, you're not judged by your religious beliefs, or if you're smoking a $3 cigar or you're smoking a $50 cigar. We're all friends. I've had seminars with celebrities. I mean, I'm close friends with 5 or 6 top celebrities, lawyers, doctor, a tailor, a guy who's cleaning carpets, the IT people. I don't know why, but in the States, if I got 30 people in the seminar, 6 or 7 guys are going to be IT guys. So it's a camaraderie. It's an atmosphere that nobody's judging you. Of course, you're going to have the occasional asshole that's been thrown out of more cigar shops and drunk out of bars that nobody wants them. Well, we're a great group of people. I have friends from all over the world. I've been in 51 countries. And I got to tell you something. I wouldn't change my life, my work, my ethics for anything in the world, unless maybe Bill Gates' money.
I couldn't agree more, and it certainly means the world to us as well that we can, you know, make a little contribution in bringing people together from all around the world. And we have people joining us from different companies from all over the world, and it's just delightful to see that we can all get together and share our thoughts and share our values and beliefs and enjoy wonderful cigars together. We had another question from El Che regarding vitolas, and some of them kept disappearing, coming back. Please bring it up.
Unmute myself. Yeah, another question would be, we live in a world where there's a lot of changes. Is the disappearing vitolas based on the challenges that the vigueros have to bring up at the same tobacco quality, or the fermentation is a problem? Why do some good cigars keep on disappearing? Yes, some others re-arise, but we had some challenges sometimes in finding a cigar and becomes rare. And is it marketing? Is it a strategy by the manufacturers?
Jasper, I can't hang up. This guy's from this man's from Canada. You love Canada. Yeah. Okay, look, vitolas, it's very easy. If you take the States, in the last 6, 7, 8 years, people are going 56, 60, 64, 70s, even 80s. You have, Europe has always been more traditional. Petit Coronas, Lanceros, Longsdales, Robustos, the most selling size in Europe. But even in some countries already, you're starting to see 54s, 60s,
Big ranges.
64s, big ring gauges selling. But you have to look at the industry by country. In the States, everything, it's a big fad still, and I see it as 3 things. I see it as a value thing, I see it as a macho thing, I see it as an American thing when it comes to the big ring gauges. Personally, my favorite size is a Corona Gorda, 5.5 by 46, then a Corona 5.25 by 42, Petit Corona 5 by 38, and Lanceros. Of course, I smoke Robustos, Toros with Ernesto. I had to smoke a lot of inches because he's always working on that. But I like the more, I like the smaller ring gauges more than anything else. It's a factor about the wrapper.
Alistair, it's good to see you on the show again. How are you? And please bring up your question.
Hi, thanks for doing this. My question was, with different cigar sizes, how difficult is it to kind of keep the blend or adjust the blend to suit a different size of cigar?
You know, that's a very good question, and I'll tell you, it's a question that I've answered many times, and it comes to this: great master blenders will try to keep as close as possible when you have 6 or 7 different sizes with the same blend. Now, nobody in the world, in my opinion, can make that Lancero taste the same as a 6x6. You'll have similar flavor notes to it and the strength, but because of a misconception that people have about ring gauges, and I'll give an example. You take a Robusto 5x50, same filler and binder, and you use a Connecticut wrapper on it. The flavor and strength is going to be, depending on the priming, 20 to 22%. But you take that same Robusto and you put a Corojo Ligero wrapper on it, it's going to be 55 to 60. But you take a Lancero 7x38 with Habano Viso, and it's going to be 75 to 80 of the flavor and the strength that's going to come from the wrapper. It is a misconception that people have and think the bigger the ring gauge, the more flavor, the more strength. It's the ratio of filler to binder to wrapper. The thinner the ring gauge, you're smoking more wrapper. So that's really where all the flavor, the majority of the flavor and the strength is coming from. But also to answer your question, that, like I said before, that's when really the blending skills have to really come in, because you have to adjust the percentages of the ligeros, the visos, and the secos and all that. And when you're doing that, you have the master blender also with the supervisor, when they're making those first cigars, making sure that the positioning of the leaf and the percentages of every cigar has to be, and then they follow up after that, you know, right through that without a problem.
Jose, in regard to this, Marvin was asking, what would you say about box pressing cigars? Because you already spoke about different blend ratios and different vitolas.
You know, the funny thing about box pressing, the other day we were with Ernesto talking about that on the show, is that you could take, let's say, a 5x50 Robusto, round, and you smoke it. And you box press that cigar and it's going to smoke totally different, because it's the way that the heat flows during that. And it happens a lot with a lot of cigars companies have a lot of, let's say, round cigars, then they have a figurado. They say, well, this tastes kind of different. Well, it's because the way the tobaccos flow, and it's incomprehensible for a lot of people, but it is the truth.
Mhm. Another topic that gets people all fired up always is retrohaling. And we had a question, do you actually retrohale? And in what part of the cigar would you do that?
Okay, you know, it's funny. It's good that you bring it up, because in my seminars, and believe it or not, I've had sometimes 40 people in a seminar, and I've said, raise your hand, the people who retrohale. And a great part said, what? Do I inhale? No, I said, retrohale. Do you blow it through the nose? So if you don't retrohale, and it's not that you're doing anything wrong, you're only picking up sweeter, beet, salty, or sour. But when you retrohale, you're picking more, not that I say, scientists say, more than 300 different notes. But what you pick up more than anything else is the strength. It's like people say, well, I'm picking up a sweetness, but what are you picking up? Is it the sweetness of milk chocolate or the sweetness of a Godiva? You're picking up spice, but what is it? Black pepper, white pepper, red pepper? When people are saying, well, I'm picking up earthiness, but what type of earthiness are you really picking up? So there's many, many types of notes that you will only pick up if you're retrohaling. Now, that said, in the seminars I've done this, okay, guys, you don't retrohale, so just take a puff, a couple of puffs, keep it in your mind without retrohaling. Now, retrohaling, you know what the majority of people say, like, wow, I've been missing the boat, and it tastes totally different. Now, do you have to retrohale after every puff? Absolutely not. I light it up, a couple of inches into it. I'll retrohale a couple of times, midway, maybe 2 or 3 times, and at the end, I'll retrohale, because that's when you really evaluate it. But if you're not retrohaling, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just that you're missing the boat.
Are there any other misconceptions that are widely spread that you always see when you do your seminars?
Are there many what?
Misconceptions or preconceptions that people have?
Oh my, I'll tell you, one of the biggest misconceptions that people have all over the world is when it comes to Maduro. I said, Maduro is right. People say, well, I don't smoke Maduros because it's too strong. But then I don't want to mention brands, but they pick up a brand that's really the most powerful brands out there. I said, but how can you say you don't smoke this? The majority of Maduros, to be honest, they're basically 80 or 85% is just a solid medium. Some other brands, medium plus, some brands just a solid strong cigars. But people have a big misconceptions about dark cigars. I could go into a shop and name 50 cigars with light wrappers that are stronger than Maduros. That to me is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have all over the world.
Jose, going a little more into your current work now with Arturo Fuente Cigars. Obviously, the Fuente family, it's such a huge name in the industry, and you work with them and you work with the wonderful Merapfel family. How was that for you coming together? Obviously, you have such a tremendous CV in the industry. It's like giants coming together. How easy was forming that coalition?
Well, let me tell you something. A lot of people might not know it, but Carlito and I have been friends almost for 35 years, and we had a very close relationship. We always get together, have dinners. Even my wife would come with us certain times. But we didn't make it so much publicly because of all of a sudden in our industry, people see 2 people talking, there's a conspiracy theory all of a sudden. So when I left Ernesto, the contract was over for 3 years. My father had left me land and a whole bunch of things that, to be honest, I got careless with. I had to take 2 or 3 months. My lawyer had passed away, and I had to really take time with my brother and my sister to adjust all that. So in December, we were talking. He called me up. Let's have dinner. One thing led to another. Then in January, went to the factory a couple of times. Then in February, I started going to the farms. And then we just sat down and says, let's work. I mean, to me, I knew Don Carlos. I didn't know him as well as I knew Carlito, but he's an outstanding person. He's a professional. He loves our industry. He cares about everybody. If you see his Facebook, he's sharing everybody's event, different companies everything, just trying to make the best of art, showing the love. And what he has done with the foundation, with him and the Newman family, is something that I take my hats off. I've been to the majority of the grape farms in Cuba, Nicaragua, Dominican, and I can tell you, Chateau de la Fuente is the Disney World of farms in the world. There is no farm, take my word, and not because I'm working with Carlito, in the world like Chateau de la Fuente, where dreams come true.
Working at Disneyland, that certainly seems like a dream job, right? How do you feel about the different consumer behaviors when you are in the United States in comparison to Europe, maybe even Asia? Do you see a lot of similarities, or would it be more of like totally different ball games wherever you go?
There's a lot of similarities, but I got to tell you something. The brand loyalty in Europe is much stronger than in the States. In Europe, people will drop a cigar because certain brand, they don't draw, they're young, they're overpriced. But in the States, it's what's new, what's new, what's new. And, you know, we have 2 or 3 companies in the States that they're always going to, everything they produce, they're going to sell. But outside of that, people are always looking for what's new. What really shocked me when I was going a lot to Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Beijing is that because I'm a big coffee drinker, the Chinese, I would say if I ran into 20 smokers, maybe 3 or 4 would have pair up with coffee, and the rest was with tea. And to be honest, I don't like tea.
Oyston, such a pleasure to see you on the show.
Norway.
How are you, my friend?
Jose. Hey, good to see you.
We talked the other day. I'm glad to see that you're well.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Smoking Fuente here, of course. But I had a question for you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, great, man. Hey, you worked with so many great factories, and you've been an asset to all of them, I'm pretty sure. And I was wondering, did you, or let me put it this way, because you probably don't want to reveal your future plans, but did you ever have a dream of starting your own factory instead of working with all the other greats?
Let me tell you something. With all due respect, I mean, factories are complicated. You need a lot of inventory, a lot of money. It doesn't mean you cannot start small, but not. It wouldn't have been my forte. I'd rather, go to the factory, see the tobaccos, work with the tobacco, make the blends, go out, do the events. To be honest, never that. To me, I think it was easier just having all those great tobaccos, great companies, and just doing what you love to do to make the blends and just go out and spread the love.
And I guess with you too, you have so many friends in the business, you would always be working with friends no matter which factory you chose, I guess.
Yeah, true. And to be honest, always with family business more than anything else. Big corporations are big corporations. You're a number there, but when you're working, whether it was with Aurora or you're in Nicaragua, with Ernesto, with Carlito, you're working with family. It's a totally different ballgame. Nothing against big companies, but to me, small companies, family companies, it's totally different. Big corporations, you're a number.
Well, thanks. And I'm looking forward to working with you for many more years. We've known each other for 20 years, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met you and your brother at La Aurora. You were only asking for cigars and rum. I don't know why.
Yeah, that was great. Many good memories, man. Thanks.
Good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, Oyston. Always a pleasure. And Jose, you actually started your own company in 2014 anyways, right?
Yes, but along came the FDA, and even though Emma still has a lot of clients in the States and in Sweden and Denmark and things like that, and now with this coming up, we don't know, but it was bad when that thing came up with the FDA. And if that ruling goes through, I mean, we don't know what's really going to happen. I mean, right now, the States and the whole world has more important things than that, but it was very hard when that thing with the FDA came up, and I just wish everybody that's into that really luck.
and still the brands that you sort of developed back then with Señoral and Freja, they're still out there. And
yes. The
right?
States has a lot of followers. She does her business, and Sweden has a big following and all that.
Do you sometimes sort of chat over the dinner table or something about the different companies and the work that you're doing?
Oh yeah, we talk about everything. All the companies, we all talk together. There's a group of us that are always talking about what everybody's doing, what we're seeing, how the markets evolve. You never try to do what anybody does, but it's always good to hear what everybody's doing. And to be honest, we're almost, let's say 95% of us, we're all friends. You always have some people that have their own ways, and we respect that too.
That's wonderful to hear. We had a more technical question from Laurent.
Hello, Jorge. One question. It's a bit more complicated, but I just want to know how many wrapper you can have with 1 kilo of Cameroon wrapper, for instance, because I heard that you have different quantity you can do with different tobacco wrapper. So with 1 kilo, what can I? How many cigars I can have?
To be honest, I wish that Jeremiah Marafel would be on board, or Carlito, because it's all going to depend how the crop was that year. If you have a smaller Cameroon wrapper, more oily, more darker, or you have some years that it's a little bit lighter, but always you're going to have that taste. So that's more something that I could follow up on that question maybe, and you could inbox me on Facebook or Instagram. I would be more than happy to find out, because I'm the kind of a person that if I don't know the correct answer, I'm not going to say I think so, it might be this, that. I don't want to seem like, people say, oh, you're the professor, you're the guru, you're that. Let me tell you something. I've been smoking for 54 years and I'm still asking questions. And I always tell this to people. If you ever go to a seminar, to an event, and the guy that's talking there says he knows everything there is to know about tobacco, hear the guy out. And as soon as you get home, hit the delete button. He's full of shit, because this is an ongoing process. And I can tell you, I learn every day. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to ask questions to Ernesto, to Carlito, to Pepin, to Guillermo, to whoever it is. The same way they ask me, I'm really willing to ask questions. So I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, with pleasure. And just last thing, I'm always surprised, but because I heard that you can the best wrapper come from Marapfel. That's true. The Cameroon wrapper.
To me, it's the best wrapper in the world. Yeah, without a doubt. Okay. And it is the most expensive wrapper in the world, also.
Okay, so I will send you an email. I'm interested to taste this wrapper on my cigars.
Yeah, you got to taste it, and I'll tell you, you'll fall in love with it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I will send you an email.
And Jose, Jay just followed up on that question. When you say that Cameroon wrapper is your favorite, would you also have like a favorite binder? And if so, what could that be?
I like Piloto Cubano a lot. I like Orojo. I like some wrappers from Jalapa. Of course, I love Mexican San Andres too as a binder. It all depends what you're working on, because some binders just do not harmonize with some wrappers and some fillers. And that's why I said that, it's trial and error all the time, going to make the blends.
When speaking about tobaccos from the New World, Woody had a great question on that. Do you feel like there's particular tobaccos or origins that improved a lot over the last couple of years, and how would you compare those tobaccos from the New World with tobaccos coming from Cuba?
Let me I'm going to skip the question about Cuba. I've always avoided it, because even though I've been there, I know many people there. Because of the political situation and how things are done there, I tried to avoid it. And the only thing I could say that one day I hope that they will have freedom, that the private sector can come in again, and we could see the greatness of it, because I think it would be good for the industry. And they're totally different. I mean, I'll just put it to you this way. You hear a lot of people say, well, yo, Nicaragua has the best cigars, Dominican has the best cigars, Cuba has the best cigars, Honduras has the best cigars. My personal opinion, no country produces better cigars than others. What I see is that countries produce different cigars that are good. That's the way I see it.
Thank you. And when we talk about Cameroon, there is clearly a massive distinction between the Cameroon coming from Africa and the one you would possibly get from Ecuador, for example, right?
Well,
which truly brings us back to what you said about the soil.
It's we've talked so much about this, and we talked with, I mean, with Jeremiah, I've talked with this about years, and Cameroon from Africa, sweet and spicy. You put a cigar with a Cameroon wrapper, without lighting it, you're going to pick up that sweetness right away. What they so-called Cameroon grown in Ecuador has some sweetness, but it's more spicy and earthy. And when people have given me cigars, and I'm going to say the brand, you say, well, this says Cameroon on. I look at it, kind of looks similar, but as soon as I put it in my mouth and I light it up, I tell them, this is from Ecuador, or this could be from Honduras or some Central American company. It's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you something about, people ask, why is Cameroon so expensive? First of all, the yield on that is very, very low, but the Metafels has to have their own clinics there, own electricity, own security, and own water. The conditions in Cameroon, people could not imagine how hard it is. And to be honest, I mean, they're on their 7th generation on that. And those two kids, I call them kids, they're younger than me, Jeremiah and Joshua, have done an amazing job. I don't think there'd be so many people that have gone through. One of the brothers actually got sick in Cameroon one time. I think it was like 2 years in recovery and all that. So it's very hard, the conditions there, and the yield is very low, and that's why it's so expensive. But again, to me, it's the best wrapper in the world.
Mm-hmm. And they're clearly doing a fantastic job on that.
Oh, yeah.
We're honored to also have Jeremiah Merapfel with us tonight. So I'm truly grateful that he's joining us, and we say hello to all the Merapfel family. Plus, you also do a great show with some Zoom lives, and you have your own sessions that you stream through YouTube. I think you were part of that as well, Jose, always sharing the knowledge there. So if you haven't checked it out, please do so and give that one a try. Beautiful sessions over there. Another question from the Don. Fire away, you're unmuted. You can go ahead.
Reinhard, are you referring to me?
Yeah, I saw you raise your hand.
Okay, sorry. No, I just wanted Jeremiah to see if he could touch on Cameroon since he's in the building.
It will be an honor.
All right.
Oh, mi compadre.
You're pulling me into the show here. This is not good. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you. Reinhold, what you're doing is incredible. Getting all these people together on a Sunday night. What time is it? It's almost 10 o'clock, and you've gotten me out of bed. It's great to see you. So much love and knowledge going around. This is what's going to leave the landmark for the future generations, because the amount of knowledge which we need to preserve in this industry is mind-boggling, and it's thanks to people like Reinhold that this can even be possible. So well done. Very, very well done. So what can I help you with? I'm not going to steal the show off Jose here. So one question and that's it.
Okay, so how many cigars can you get with 1 kilo? The previous question that was asked.
Well, my friend, that depends who you ask. If you're in the position of a seller and you're going to ask a manufacturer how many cigars he can make with a couple of pounds of your tobacco, he's going to say very little and it's too expensive. And if you're in my shoes, you can make as many as you want. It's a very tough question. When it comes to Cameroon, very, very little. Cameroon's very thin. It's very brittle. It's very spotty, so you got to throw a lot of it away. It ends up being ridiculously insane. I mean, Cameroon could be presented at anywhere from, 60, 70 to $100 a pound for the top qualities. And then, the manufacturer might have to throw 50, 60, 70% out the door just because it doesn't pass the visual tests on it. So even though all the Cameroon tastes very special and very unique, as many of you know, it's one of the only tobaccos in the world, probably the only one who's truly, completely, kind of naturally, wildly grown in the middle of the rainforests in Africa. And then after that, just the taste is unreal because it's pure virgin soils. So the amount of, Jose was talking earlier about the soil, the amount of nutrients that are in these soils. I mean, just insane. You're in the middle of the second most dense forest on the planet after the Amazon. This is the forest where the pygmies live. And the amount of magnesiums and everything else that you would find in here are very, very, very heavy. So that's why you have this taste in Cameroon wrapper. However, the flip side is it's very low yielding, by far the lowest yielding tobacco in the world. And if you don't select it ridiculously heavily, it's blotchy and you have these little spots. Now, even though it tastes incredible, some of the manufacturers want it to look just perfect, and that's very complicated with Cameroon. Cameroon's one of these tobaccos you buy for taste. So it's going to yield very, 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 very low.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Godfather. I appreciate it.
All right, Don. And goodbye to everybody. I'll see you guys soon. It was nice.
Jeremiah, thank you so much for tuning in, and also wholeheartedly thank you for the nice words that you had to share with us. It means very much to us, and hopefully we can do a specially designated Mirapfel session here at the Light 'em Up Lounge super soon to talk a little more about the amazing contribution that your family.
It would be my honor and my pleasure to see all of you very soon again.
Wonderful. Jose, going back to a more personal question, and because you mentioned what ruins a perfect cigar is smoking it with an asshole, if you were to design like a memorable evening and just the perfect occasion to share and enjoy a wonderful cigar, what would that look like?
You always hear that three's a crowd, but to me, it would be, first of all, a good dinner. After that, a good coffee, a good espresso. Then the choice of the cigar, and naturally what you're going to pair up with. And talking about, just remind me to talk about pairings later on. I want to touch that subject. Then you have 3 or 4 guys, knowledgeable, that are passionate, that you're going to talk everything except religion and politics, sports, movies, our lives. Just spend 2 or 3 hours having a drink, just chit-chatting. But also where you're going to do it is very important. I'm not a big fan of smoking inside, even though in our apartment and in our condo where I'm smoking inside here with everything open. I like more to enjoy a cigar like in a patio or something like that. But also the conversation has to be amongst people first that respect themselves, that respect the pairing, that respect the cigar, and that respect the moment. To me, that's what I would call an ideal smoke. And I have people that I sit down with them, 3 or 4, maybe 5 the max, depending who that 5th guy is that comes with somebody else, and sometimes he ruins it. But to me, it's all about that. Look, we've said in our show, and I've said it for years, Carlito has said it, Jeremiah have said it, we're all in the business, but more than anything else, it's the passion, the love, what we bring. And Jeremiah has brought up a theme that is very important to me, and it's the next generation, the family. Because in time I'll be gone, My son is really into it. He worked with Hochi, my cousin Jasper. Who knows? He wants to be a rocket scientist, something like that. But Jeremiah has kids. Carlito has Liana, Sofia, Lidiana, Carlos III, all those things. So the continuation of the business where you're growing tobacco or making cigars, to me, that is very, very important. And that's why our industry, although taxation, FDA, smoking bans, it has been that new generation of smokers all over the world that are enjoying cigars, that are having remembrance of the grandfather, of the father, the love. I mean, I think all the problems of the world could be solved if we could just have a coffee and a cigar and just spill out the truth and leave a little bit of the BS out. And like I said, and I don't get tired of saying, this is the greatest industry in the world. Take my word on that.
I couldn't agree more. And thanks for that statement. Now, because you mentioned pairings, please follow up with your thought on that.
Okay, this is something that drives me crazy. I know people that I trust their palates that have worked with me, that the only thing they drink is Diet Coke. You know, the only time I'm gonna have a Diet Coke? If I'm in the desert and I'm gonna die of thirst. Now, does that mean that that person is wrong and I'm right? Absolutely not. You have to respect what people pair up with. People, coffee, wine, bourbon, single malts, moonshine, 100% alcohol, water. And it really pisses me off when I see somebody else criticizing, because I always said that people pair up what makes them comfortable and brings out the best in a cigar. And that's why I've always respected. And sometimes even on Facebook, I make comments when people are trying to make fun of other people. And I say, taste is subjective, and what you pair up with is very personal from the person. And I've always encouraged people to respect the pairing, to respect the brands, and to respect their fellow smokers. I'm old school, so that's my 2 cents on that.
Perfect. Jose, I'm so much enjoying this wonderful session. In the meantime, I would like to take a second and let all you guys know that we have a super exciting week ahead. We're going to do a special AJ Fernandez session on Wednesday. We have La Flor Dominicana with Tony and Lito Gomez joining us on Friday. And then next Sunday, we will have Omar from Fratello Cigars. So that's going to be another super exciting week. And please make sure that you sign up for the Light 'em Up Lounge to get all the news and updates through our newsletter. And please join us again next week. Jose, we had a question over on Facebook asking you for a little glimpse into the crystal ball, if you will. If you were to predict the future of the cigar industry over the next decades, what would be your 2 cents on that? What's the industry going to look like within the next 20, 30, 50 years?
Well, let's say for the next year, let's go for the next year. To be honest, coronavirus is going to have to do a lot with it. We don't know what's going to happen. We pray to God and to the scientists to come something up to take this horrible virus away from us so we can get back to our lives. But in the States especially, a lot is going to be determined by the FDA. We hope that now they understand a little bit more our situation. And I've always said it, you cannot log us in to the cigarettes. Like I said, in the States, the cigarette industry is $90 billion. They're 90 times bigger than us. This is family business. This is hundreds of thousands of farmers in Cuba and Honduras and Nicaragua and Cameroon and Brazil and Ecuador and Mexico, Indonesia, that are growing tobacco. We're talking about their livelihoods. And we're all grown adults. We're a different breed. I mean, we get together in our cigar lounges, we go to the cigar shops, We do our herfs. We get together with friends. We're not bothering anybody. We're totally different. And what, unfortunately, all these congressmen and senators and people from all over the world don't understand that we're small business. The majority of shops in the States are mom and pops, one store run by the husband or the wife and maybe a part-timer for the weekend. The same thing in Europe. The majority of places I've been to, Germany to Switzerland, it's the owner there, maybe with the son and somebody that comes in maybe to do a couple of hours a week. So I just, to be honest, I don't get it. And then, you know, there's so much thing going. I don't have anything against, you know, I've never done pot or anything like that, but like, come on, when have you ever seen a guy go into a cigar shop, smoke 2 cigars, go on the highway and crash and kill 10 people? Doesn't happen. But if you have 5 joints and you have a 6-pack, you could do some stupid things. So we should not be, in all honesty, you know, logged in or bunch into to that stuff. And I mean, if people want to smoke cigarettes, okay. They want to do pot, I mean, I don't care. But don't put us into that group. We are a very unique tradition that comes from back of 100 years. You got to remember that when Christopher Columbus came to Santo Domingo and he saw the Indians smoking these gigantic joints, it was criollo tobacco, and they would be smoking that and praising the gods for them to have the plátano, the yuca, and all their agriculture things. So this is something that comes from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So kind of leave us alone. We're not bothering anybody.
Mm-hmm. And you clearly put your finger on that industry, and you made your fantastic contribution for more than 50 years now, which is incredible. And I guess on behalf of everybody who's joining us and listening here, I can only thank you from deepest of hearts, Jose, for everything that you have done and will do for this industry in the near future. And that brings me to my final question for tonight. If you could wish for what your mark on this industry and your legacy could be, what would you wish for?
Look, I've blended a lot of great cigars. I've worked with a lot of great people. I've had the privilege to know and be very close. And we had him on the show last Friday, Benji Menendez. I call him Uncle Benji. I mean, I knew Guillermo's father. I knew Heller very well, and Rick, Jeremiah's father and grandfather. I would always remember him going to La Aurora. And I mean, I spent time with Pepin, with Jonathan, with Guillermo, with Ernesto, with Carlito. And I wouldn't change it for the world. And other people that I know I'm forgetting. But I think my contribution, and it's, I think Jeremiah and I have talked a lot about it. More than anything else, yes, of course, we're going to work with the markets, with the distributors, with the retailers, educate them. But I want to be remembered as a person that the little or a lot of knowledge that I had, I shared it during all my life with people. Not going to mention names, but there's people that have done very well. Then in their beginnings, they would go to La Aurora, sit down with me, give me samples to smoke. This I like, this I don't like, change this, change that. And then I've given my little drop of water into the ocean that what I did was more or less contribute to defending our industry, traveling and educating people, and bringing out the greatness of what I consider, and I've said it probably 100 times tonight, the greatest industry in the world, which is the premium cigar business.
What a most wonderful way to finish an absolutely outstanding session. Thank you so much, Jose Blanco, for joining us tonight and sharing all your passion, your knowledge, and your vast experience with us.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you. You know, I know Reinhold for many years, and I've traveled a lot in Europe and Germany and Switzerland and London, of course, Spain, Italy. And it's been a pleasure. I have a 10-year plan, like I said before. It's a master's at Fuente, and then at 75, I'm going to do a PhD. And then one of my dreams that has been on my bucket list, and it's not that I'm putting Jeremiah on the spot because he has offered it to me even before I work with them now, is to one day go to Cameroon and see the land that grows the best wrapper in the world. So it's been a pleasure. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. I hope that I could answer all the questions that you have. And like I said, anybody who's friends of mine on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and has any question, any doubts, any misconceptions, do not hesitate to contact me. That with pleasure, I'll give my 2 cents on that.
Thank you so much, Jose, and thank you all for tuning in. It's been a fantastic evening. We wish you all the very best, and I can't wait to light up another cigar with all of you soon. Be safe. And
Thank you, Jose.
Take care.
Thanks, Figo, Jeremiah, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Jose.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jose.
Okay.